My sister Betsy had a bad hand. I loved helping her hide it in the morning. By 8, she'd be standing in the bathroom and would say, "Okay, make it fashion." And I'd flip through my tube tops, finding one the same color as her swimsuit. Betsy would hold the tube top up and examine it. "Cool," she'd say. She liked wearing them because they hid her hand completely, but made her look like she was carrying something bright. Helping Betsy with her bad hand was the only thing I could do right that summer. Growing up, we are often told that we can do or be anything. Of course, this notion is only meant to inspire us to pursue our dreams. However, there comes a time when reality overtakes optimism, and we ignore the fact that no one can do absolutely everything. In her coming-of-age story, Karen Bender illustrates this through Sally and her sister Betsy. While reconciling her inability to help her sister's physical impairment, Sally must learn to embrace their differences. A Chick from My Dream Life by Karen Bender. My parents were the ones who started helping Betsy hide her bad hand. After my mother finished hemming the bottom of Betsy's coats, she'd sew the extra material to one sleeve. My mother took forever with those sleeves. I got jealous of Betsy sometimes. Because of her bad hand, Betsy possessed my parents in a way that I didn't. Betsy's bad hand wasn't exactly a hand. Her arm just ended in a point. Like the tail end of whipped cream. I thought it looked like Betsy's arm just wanted to stop when it entered the world. Betsy was 8, and I was 9, and we were sitting in the yard, and I was holding her bad hand, wondering if it would grow if we put on a sprinkler. When she pulled away. "Why am I different?" she asked me. I just told her what our father always told me. "You're the same as me. You just can't take piano lessons." But I had to do something. I was the older sister. So I took her into our bedroom, and we looked through our game closet. Mr. Potato Head, Clue. Nothing seemed right. Our 52 color marker set. I took Betsy's bad hand in mine and I began to draw. Aqua, olive green, burgundy. I wanted to find the color combination that would make Betsy's fingers grow. When I was finished, Betsy had 5 colorful fingers drawn on her bad hand. We had a good day. I carried her around the yard. We sang. I lifted her arm up, her bad hand raised like a beautiful flower. But when she woke up the next morning, the colors had run together. As soon as I cleaned it off, we tried something else. We sat, backs pressed against old games of Candyland and Clue, legs tucked so our knees hit our chins. I bent over, and I tried to wish them out of her, making us finally the same. I inspected. Nothing. Then Betsy put her arm in my lap and said, "Please." That night, I woke up blinking into the dark. I kept hearing her say, "Why am I different from you?" So I moved down the hallway and into the kitchen. I stood in the doorway and I scanned the utensils. The can opener wasn't sharp enough. So I took the biggest steak knife, silver and heavy, and I placed it on my left hand. That knife was stubborn. I held it there hard and stood. I thought of all the love that I could, but the knife wouldn't go down. It wouldn't move. Finally, I lifted the knife off my skin and I put it in the trash and I dumped garbage over it. The next morning, I left early and headed for Savon's. It's where my family went when we needed to fix things. I headed down to gardening. A small bottle filled with bright blue liquid. Plant grower. In small print, bring your thirsty plants to life. I think I had to take the plant grower because nothing else had worked. So I did something I've never done before. I took it, I put it in my pocket, and I headed straight for the door. I walked out past the girls ringing the cash machines and stepped out into the parking lot. I didn't stop walking for 5 blocks. In front of me, the sidewalk rose up, shining. I showed it to her in the bathroom. I can make your fingers grow. I can. I took Betsy's bad hand and I touched the blue with it. It was the only thing I could think to help at the time. I kept pouring and pouring, the blue dripping off of her and onto the floor. Betsy started rubbing her hand in the blue that was pooling by her feet. Finally, she stood up and said, "Let's do it." We ran the whole way there to the biggest hill in town. Betsy dashed up ahead of me, sand flying from her feet like white sparks. When we got to the top, we turned toward the sun, and I lifted her arm up. She started to turn away from me, embarrassed, but I held her arm there, hard. "Higher," I said, "on your toes." I stood behind my sister and held her arm closer to the sun. "Try harder, push," I screamed. It seemed like Betsy was trying to fling her whole self into that arm. Finally, I just wrapped my arms around her skinny waist and lifted her kicking to the sky. "Push," I screamed. I squeezed my sister tighter. I waited for something beautiful to come out of her. I waited for anything at all, but then Betsy began to cough and we fell separate on the sand. Betsy was still. I lifted her arm out of the sand. She must have known there was no difference. And of course there wasn't. Because when her arm was out, I could see it was the same. It was still my sister's bad hand. Betsy sat up and she took my good hand with her good hand. on," she said. And we walked off the beach.